The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
The ironic thing is he's trying to promote this idea of I had a single mother as if this is a good thing, but in reality, he says his daddy left him, and actually, in reality, he had 4 fathers his entire life. He had the father in name, the Barack Obama Kenyan. He had his grandfather, who was the father figure.
Gramps, that's Gramps.
Gramps. Yeah. He had Lolo Soetoro, who adopted him
Indeed.
from all our information in Indonesia from age 6 and remained a father figure his entire life. And then we have Frank Marshall Davis, who raised Obama from age 10 and was very close to him his entire life. So Obama is the most fathered president we've ever had. But again, the false narrative he needs to hide the fact, if he came out and told the truth, my father, instead of saying my father was a Kenyan goat herder, so I'm going to bring everybody together. The truth he should have told us was, my father was a Soviet agent and Communist Party propagandist who indoctrinated me in my formative years.
Because it never made any sense to, even the so-called straight, if you would, biographers. Why does Gramps, why does Big Stan take, when Barack comes back, and they call him Barry, when he comes back, Mama brings him back and drops him off. Yeah, from Indonesia, from Lolo, who some people think had a problem with alcohol, is a pretty brutal character, brings him back to the island. Of all the people in the universe, why does Gramps make these trips to, of all people, Frank Marshall Davis, and bring him into the room and set him up and let him speak? And some people said, well, he was the only other black guy in Hawaii or something like that.
The lie that they put forth to cover the situation was that a 10-year-old multiracial kid coming to Hawaii, a multiracial society, needed to have a black communist pornographer to raise him to help him become, I don't know, more of a who knows what. The reality is these were parental visits. I've talked to Davis's neighbors. From age 10, Obama was visiting and being raised by Davis, and they were very close. It was never a secret in his entire life. The only secret is that the media doesn't want us to know that Obama was raised by a committed Marxist and a Soviet agent and was indoctrinated by him, and that's why he went to Occidental at age 18 to study, in his own words, with the Marxist professors. They don't want to make the connection, but I've been to Hawaii twice, which is twice as much as all the mainstream media combined,
indeed.
And I found out the truth.
The governor of Hawaii was one, and Bill O'Reilly and all these different characters, when this was a sort of a tip-of-the-spear issue in the underground press, the governor of Hawaii said, oh, no, I used to go to parties with them. And there was Mommy and Danger laughing, and it's impossible. It could have never happened. The governor of Hawaii, now he is finally, well, I shouldn't say finally, but about a year and a half back, shut up. But he's absolutely telling lies.
Unfortunately, they have mastered a formula for hiding the truth, and it's so ridiculous and simple. They simply get some surrogate. For instance, it was the sister Maya who said the grandfather wanted Barack to have a black communist role model. Yeah. So this was the other. They just throw up Abercrombie to say something. Oh, yeah, I saw him at parties.
Oh, we should go to parties together.
Yeah, and then the media quotes that.
Neil Abercrombie's becomes the source.
Exactly. So the media quotes whoever said that spokesperson, and that's the end of it. They don't investigate further. So
I went to the airport with my mother to say goodbye to my father, who was going to Harvard. Did that happen?
No.
Neil Abercrombie, I saw them at parties together. Did that happen?
None of it happened. Even so-called mainstream biographers like David Moranis, for example, he put out the big book, The Story.
Right.
And he interviewed a number of the Kenyan Obama's classmates at the University of Hawaii. They all said they did not know he was married, never heard of a child named
He lived in his
Barack.
he stayed in his own apartment.
But what does Moranis do? He does not follow up on his own research.
That's right.
The normal thing to do would be, wow, I just found out everything is a lie. What is the truth? What was the mother doing in Seattle? He doesn't ask those questions. He just goes
Or even
on.
that she went to Seattle.
Does not even discuss it.
Attention. Remain calm. He's back. Peter Boyles on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 27 minutes after the hour of 6. It is the voice of the Front Range, the people in the Front Range, 710 KNUS Monday morning, 8th of July. I'm Peter Boyles. Thank you for being here. 91 is the high today, says the 710 KNUS Weather Center. 92 tomorrow, runs into the 90s. This was a true gift. We got the voice call, and the man is here. Joel Gilbert's in town, the man who did Dreams from My Real Father. We have the film up on our website this morning. If you've never seen it, 710knus.com. Just a quick email here. It comes from Mastic Beach, New York. The voice of reason is back. Signed from Rad. Rad, thank you for listening online. Thanks for getting involved in the show. So we're sitting off the air, and I'm talking to Joel, and we're talking about O'Reilly, and we're talking about Fox News, and the total laydown by the press. You told me the names of the people, but I am obviously going to respect, because I do this from time to time with people. Can you tell the Fox story?
Yes, I had a friend who took my film Dreams from My Real Father into the very top echelon that you can imagine at Fox News, and they watched Dreams from My Father, the entire film, hour and a half, and my friend said, well, what did you think? And they said, let's watch it again. They watched it a second time. And the verdict was, jaws dropped. This is incredible. Quote, we can't touch this, unquote.
Why?
He said that if somebody else covers this, we'll cover them covering it. Read between the lines. The situation is Fox News is number one. They're making a lot of money off the conservative audience.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Glenn Beck, who had a huge audience.
It's a great story.
Because Media Matters and the leftists...
They couldn't sell Glenn.
They went after their advertisers.
That's right.
So it wasn't that he didn't have the audience, it was they couldn't sell advertising. Mm-hmm. So they understood very well that if they do anything personal about Obama's life history, the birth certificate, that his real father is not the Kenyan, that his entire narrative is a lie, that they're going to have a problem selling advertising. So as long as they're number one and they're making money off the conservative audience, they don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. So my film also was real journalism. All of their journalists, including Hannity, would have been exposed as not having done their jobs.
O'Reilly's the classic in this moment, because O'Reilly comes on the air and says, I have, and he said, personally seen the truth. Remember this story?
Yeah.
And finally, I think it was Jerry Corsi who said to him, what did you see, Bill? And then it was, well, I didn't see the truth. My staff saw the truth. Well, what did they see, Bill? And it finally got down to what was being used by people like Media Matters and others, and the libs and the MSM, newspaper ads, newspaper birth announcements. Now, that the couple was living together at home. First of all, the home was where mom and dad lived.
Right.
Number two, they were never a couple. Number three, if she was there for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, there was just a...
But he was never held accountable for that.
Yeah, it's... The problem is, our problem, the problem is that the media, the so-called conservative media, are no longer the fourth estate. They're not going to keep the executive branch, politicians accountable to anything. So that means that they can get away with anything. That's why Obama's first assault on the Constitution was providing a fake birth certificate. The next assault was Fast and Furious. The next assault was trying to get rid of the Second Amendment. The next assault then was Benghazi. Then it was the IRS scandal, and it goes on and on. The only part of the Constitution that Obama's gang likes is the Fifth Amendment, where they can just
dummy up,
make an excuse not to testify. So it goes on and on.
Why do you think his medical records are sealed?
Obama's medical records are part of the entire group of records, including his college records, his state Senate records, his Occidental and Columbia records, his adoption records, and on, that he has sealed because it would reveal the truth about who he is, where he's from, and what his ideology is. And that's something that would be unacceptable to the American people.
Jeremiah Wright's an interesting guy who disappears. Jeremiah Wright shows up on the scene, and he is... people were lionizing Jeremiah Wright until it turns out that some people have some recordings, video and audio, of the things that Reverend Wright was saying in his church, including God-damning America.
Correct.
And then he starts to really talk, because I think Obama goes the other way on him, and there's a number of people who have written books that said that Obama's operatives went to Jeremiah Wright and offered bribes. Do you believe that?
Absolutely believe that. I read all the details. It came from Wright himself. So we have to think that's a true account.
Oh, sure. He said they came and want to meet in another room. And
right. And to understand the relationship with Jeremiah Wright, you have to look back to Obama's real biological father, who became his ideological mentor.
He was a Chicago guy.
Chicago guy, Frank Marshall Davis, who raised Obama in Hawaii and was anti-white, angry, anti-American, Marxist. So what happened was Obama's father, Frank Marshall Davis, died in 1987. 1987, Obama joins Wright's church. So for Obama, Jeremiah Wright was a substitute father figure. It was literally the same guy, same ideology as his father, Frank Marshall Davis. And this was his new father figure. Obama now describes him several times as an uncle. He's like my uncle. Well, that was his substitute father.
And what's interesting, Wright himself, if you read his bio, one time was a black Muslim, has said, and I remember when, at that time, Senator Barack Obama went after Imus in the morning, and going after the things that they said on that show because, quote, he didn't want his daughters hearing that. But his daughters sat in those pews and listened to Jeremiah Wright. That apparently was okay. And nobody has little kids, and they were little kids then. Nobody has little kids listening to Imus. But that aside, Imus's team was wrong, and, of course, they attempted to end Imus's career.
Yeah.
But Jeremiah Wright was okay.
Well, Obama uses his daughters a lot to justify radical policies. He used his daughters as an excuse for supposedly changing his opinion all of a sudden about gay marriage. I wouldn't want Sasha and Malia's friends at school to have their parents treated differently, rather than telling the truth. I've probably always believed in gay marriage and was looking for a chance to do it. Same with the gun control. It's always Sasha and Malia. Unfortunately, no reporter will even ask the guy a question to challenge this. And without anyone to challenge this, it just seems like they have a winning formula to achieve their goals.
How does a guy who, by his own admission, because you don't know, because you can't see any of the school records, high school records, he gets into Occidental College. By their own definition in that time period, they're kind of a party school by his own definition, and God knows my history of drugs and alcohol, so I'm not throwing rocks at him. Thank God I've been sober now for pushing 30 years, but I certainly danced the dance. He is admitted to all this drug use, and yet goes from probably as an average student, probably a C student, give or take, according to his friends, in a party school like Occidental. How does he get, at the end of his sophomore year, into Columbia University, which is an Ivy League school, unless he said some things about who he was?
Well, Peter, I can tell you that I'm currently, this is a new area of investigation for me in Obama's past, and I'm working with several other researchers, lest anyone listening at the NSA or otherwise think that I'm the only one that knows this. There's a group of researchers, and we have solved the puzzle about this entire issue. So you'll certainly be the first to know we're pulling some absolute proof, and this will be a major revelation in the next coming month or two. The only problem is, Peter, that...
It's too late.
Well, not that, but the only problem is beyond this radio show and a few other outlets, the average person may never find out because of the media blackout on anything about that debunks Obama's false narrative.
No, I mean, I sat there and I've had conversations with people who went to Columbia. And I said, how does this guy show up? I mean, in the middle of his end of his sophomore year into an Ivy League school, and he lives with foreign students.
Correct. He lived with the Pakistani waiter named Sohail Siddiqui, who I've spoken to and has spoken out recently. And there's a whole history there. And as I said, the narrative that Obama put forward is false. And there's much more complex issues that were going on. And it will be completely revealed in the next few months, and I'll be on your station to tell you about it.
6:36, 24 before the hour of 7 on Monday morning, the July 8th edition.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.